Moin and welcome everyone to another video. Today we are talking about CI/CD and testing in real life. So I have two guests and we will explain what CI/CD is in a moment. Testing should be something you can, you know what it's about. So I have two guests. One will join later and the first guest with me today is Tomasz von kiwee. Hi, Tomasz.
Hello.
So,
nice to be here. And
yeah,
thank you for inviting.
I'm excited that you are here. So, who are you? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing.
Yes. So I'm a CTO at kiwee. kiwee is an e-commerce agency, so I also a co-founder of kiwee. And we've been working and driving this company for 13 years already. So my wife is the CEO and I'm the CTO. And since we are a small team, I'm very close to the code, which I really love. Unlike CTOs on larger organizations, they mostly focus on managing and the high level visions and processes, and I'm more into the code.
Yeah. So it's a family business, basically, or founded.
Yes,
it's family. It's not all family, I guess.
Right.
And what does kiwee do? Or basically, why are you here? Because that has to do something with what you're doing at kiwee.
Yes. So our focus is e-commerce software implementation and build custom solutions based on basically two platforms: our Shopware and Magento. And our main goal and main vision is to deliver high quality solutions.
Sounds legit, yes.
Very, very specialized and very dedicated. So we mostly work long term. We have long term relationships with our clients. So we don't do many projects, but we do long term projects with them, and we want to provide the high quality solutions and ensure valuable cooperation and reliable business
relationships. Yeah, business relationships. So the thing is, that's not really why you're here, but because of part of something that drives this, right? And that's testing CI/CD, as I introduced earlier. So CI/CD, I will just explain real quick for people who don't know, and then maybe we talk about who this video is for, right? CI/CD means continuous integration and continuous delivery. So basically things that are running automatically as soon as you push something or merge something in Git, opposed to someone doing something via FTP when you tell them to. That's the big difference. So that's also leading into why we have another guest. So that other guest is a customer of kiwee that was transitioning to Shopware 6, and they implemented it. And we will also be talking about testing because they had you basically as a testing consultant at their hand, right? And you as a company, correct me if I'm wrong, are passionate about testing.
That's right. Yes, we are very passionate about testing, about continuous integration, and implementing the processes which lead to the high quality and reliable software deployments.
Okay, and we also will talk, of course, about things that people might say, well, like, I don't need testing because, or testing is too steep, is too expensive for me because. So we'll talk about that. And the target group basically is people or teams, or target group of this video, not your work, is people or teams who either are afraid of starting testing, think it is too much of a hassle, or think that it's too expensive to test, which are, by the way, valid things to say, but there are also arguments against that. Okay, so that's the target groups. If you are already testing, if you're already using continuous integration, then you can still watch that video, but you maybe find yourself nodding a lot. Okay, so before we started recording this video, we talked a bit already, and the discussion got the direction of what does it mean to be a good engineer? Is it a thing to be, or is testing a sign of being a good engineer? And why should I be a good engineer or adhere to that definition? Tomasz, vielleicht. There was some German in there. maybe you can say something about that.
Yes, the being able and knowing how to write tests together with the code is one of the key elements in being a good engineer. A part of other elements, like, for example, being able to architect solutions or themselves, knowing all object-oriented programming principles, and being able to implement all this into the code and build solutions according the requirements from the client.
So this would make a good engineer. Now, people who are working at an agency or even freelancers or people that are part of teams and then maybe they don't test yet, would that make them a bad engineer? Or would you say, well, there is just room to improve and they should do this because it completes them? So what's the deal here?
Yeah, I really hope that we can convince them that it's a good practice and to improve their skills and provide more high quality solutions.
But aren't there situations where I would say, okay, maybe I am shipping out stuff to my customer already. I'm building shops for my customer, and I'm also doing plugins, and my plugins work. I can test them, right? I just click through my functionality and it works. And if I now start testing, that would mean that my team or I would do like maybe, I don't know, 40% more work that my customer will not pay me. I can't go to my customer and say, hey, now everything is more expensive because I started testing. What would you say to something like that?
I think it's the opposite, because if usually providing a plugin doesn't mean that you provide the plugin and it ends. Usually you have to maintain it. You have to update it according to the new software or dependencies versions. So if you don't have automated tests, then you need to test it manually every time you perform an update. So it's time consuming, and it's also costly because of that. Because usually the human time and dedication is the most expensive. So more optimal from the also financial and time perspective and investment is to spend time on writing tests, automated tests, and continuous integration to be able to run those tests on daily basis.
Is testing, or does testing help with debugging things that happen? Like I imagine someone who gets called by a merchant, and the merchant is like, XYZ doesn't work, maybe not anymore, or it never worked. Please fix that. Does having tests help me in that scenario? And if yes, how?
I think that's that's a bit different aspect, because if something is broken, that usually means that there was missing a test for that given part of functionality, or maybe it was implemented in not in the way as it was required to be done. Because then, if we do it wrong and we misunderstood the requirements and we write the test for wrong for a wrong interpretation of the requirements, then obviously test won't help there. But definitely a test will prevent from this kind of bugs in production.
But you also said something there, because if you already have tests, you can assert which parts of your application are definitely not responsible for that bug. And you can quickly see if this is either untested in that area. So that is one thing, or behavior that is not tested with existing tests. And in both cases, you can write a test if we are talking about test-driven development for that scenario, and then make it green, as they say.
Absolutely.
And then it works. So you would even be quicker at that point, at least in my opinion.
That's true. That's also a good solution if a bug was found, and for example, there was a test, but this particular case wasn't included in this test. So definitely a must-have is to fix the bug and write the test to cover this case, because the tests have to be comprehensive. They have to include edge cases and the happy path too.
Yeah, so a happy path, for those of you who don't know, is we assume that, for example, if someone puts a string into a function, that we get hello string, hello Carl, hello whatever back. And this is the happy path. We test when I give the expected stuff to a function, does it produce the outcome that I want to? And the not happy path would be if I pass an integer to that function because I'm not using types, whatever, then it should fail. And that would be the not happy path. And usually these bugs in existing tests occur when somehow you put data somewhere where you did not expect it in the first place. So it's the old tale of I built something, quote unquote, idiot proof, and someone built a better idiot, which of course is, I'm not saying customers, but you know what I mean, right? Okay. So if someone now listened until this point and says, well, if I actually am able to save money with this, and it makes that whole thing more secure because it's easier to debug. The last thing is, how much effort is it? Because there are different types of tests. If I may explain this shortly, what we're usually talking about are unit tests, which test pieces of your code, like really down to the functions or methods. Then we have integration tests, which test functionality still only in your code, but broader things where maybe a whole class is doing something and you're checking if that works and you're mocking a database and stuff like that. And then there are end-to-end tests where something is automated to click through your shop. And if the order is not ending in a success screen, it screams murder. Now, how much effort is it to actually get into this? Because if I'm not testing up until now, it feels like I need to learn, I don't know, the next, 3 weeks, 2 months, I don't know, are just learning testing, how to start.
Yeah, definitely from in the beginning when someone has zero experience in writing tests, some basic knowledge would be necessary, and I can recommend some books about testing in general, not specific to a concrete language, but in general.
I will put them in the description in YouTube. I will just write that down so I don't forget. Please continue.
Okay, sure. And also when being specific to PHP, to Shopware, or to JavaScript and Vue.js, there are certain frameworks, certain tools, and so I recommend to just study the documentation and follow the best practices. Maybe look up someone else's code, how this is done, similar case. Yeah, but definitely the learning curve isn't steep.
You just need to start.
Need to
and yes,
start.
of course. In terms of Shopware, Shopware comes with everything already that you need to test your own extensions. And if you are, for example, creating an app server, so you're writing your own code or a script for something, usually it's quick to get into. It needs a bit of thinking, but you are already a developer. You know how to think. Don't underestimate yourself should be the message here. Okay, so we did not talk about CI/CD yet. So continuous integration, continuous development. Maybe we can continue this and also invite Werner into our little conversation so that we talk with Werner about how Kiwee changed the integration of Shopware, what was already there, where they went. Okay, so Werner, moin moin, hello, hi.
Hi, great to be here, and already very many exciting things you talked about with Tomasz. So
yes, because you were silently there in the background all along,
listening to everything and what to add, because there were already a lot of good arguments made for testing.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm here to help you. So first of all, who are you and what are you doing?
I'm one of the founders of NFC 21. We are a small company specialized on NFC products, so very uncreative name, basically.
Sorry, what is NFC? Is that near field communication?
Yes, exactly. Good that you ask. And everyone might know it from their debit card or payment systems like Apple Pay. But there's so much more to NFC than just payment. And we started basically with a mission to inform, educate about the possibilities of NFC and provide products and services to use NFC in any way or any kind imaginable. And we started 12 years ago with this desire to bring NFC to other developers, to other users, to educate about NFC. And obviously, we started with an online shop in that area. And one of our first systems was actually based on Shopware 4. And as from the founding team of 3, I'm the one with the technical background. I'm from computer science as well. I had the honor and pleasure to work with Shopware for a long time, doing everything on my own for a long time. And the system grew.
Shopware 4.
Shopware 4. Yeah. And then we switched to 5. And our team grew, our company grew, the requirements on the shop grew. It went bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we saw Shopware 6. And Shopware 6 provided or had promised so many technical advantages that we made a plan to switch. But we knew right from the start.
For those who don't know it anymore in the audience, the switch from Shopware 5 to Shopware 6, Shopware 6 is a different system. So it is not like upgrading, but it's something completely else. It's like choosing some competitor, which of course nobody does, but still it's the same from a migration perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. Good that you mentioned that. And for us, it was immediately clear that we want to stick with Shopware because we made so good experience, or had so good experience with Shopware. But we knew, right from the start that when switching to Shopware 6, we needed to change some things. And basically, what did we want to achieve? We wanted to have a smooth and stable release process when we switched to Shopware 6, because while maintaining Shopware 5, it was like applying my small updates manually, switching or editing a file right on the server, which is an absolute no-go, I have to mention, or shouldn't be done, actually.
It's a liability. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we wanted to have a stable and reproducible deployment process for once. Then we wanted to have a staging environment that really reflects the state of the production system and can easily be rebuilt based on the production system. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to have a good developer experience in making every developer working on the system, because obviously more requirements means more developers on more modules. We wanted everyone to be able to rightly sail into the development process as easy as possible and provide a good experience in that regard.
So you basically, you are a company, but you also have already an in-house developer team. So you're basically a merchant with developers.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have Shopware experience, or you had Shopware experience, and I think you already did testing, but you were missing the whole CI/CD topic. And you were looking, or just to make that clear, when you're using CI/CD, it doesn't matter when your computer has an outage and at the same time your server is deleted by someone else, you still can restore your shop to the glory that it was before, given that your ERP is not burning down at the same time, maybe. Because
exactly.
you have to you have to have your data somewhere. Okay, but that's what backups are for. So, but the whole CI/CD is there so that you can restore the code of your online shop and also do rollbacks and things like that. Correct?
Exactly.
So how does this look doing CI/CD with Shopware 6?
How does it look like? Let's compare it to the past. When in the past we had like a big Shopware update, like 5.5.3 or something else, we did reserve half a day for the update process, and we had like a checklist. And what did we have to do? We had to make backups, additional backups. We had to make a mirror of the old files in case we need to roll back, apply the update, do some testing, disable maintenance, and then make it available to the public. So we had like whole day reserved to a release day. Now, as we have a CI/CD pipeline in place, we make just an appointment, let's run the pipeline, and deployment is done completely automatically from build to deployment to enabling and disabling maintenance mode completely automatically, and mostly in half an hour it's done. And the out time for customers is like 10 minutes. And
the whole testing process of the update is just beforehand at some point, and then it just works. I guess you also have some kind of staging. I don't know if it's in the CD pipeline.
Yeah, we
but
have.
yeah, so yeah, okay. So that you basically also the mirroring of the store into the staging is done automatically. There are even tools, by the way, if you don't know this, not you but the audience. There are GDPR compliant mirroring tools so that you don't have to mirror your customer data into some testing system. So the idea is that everything just works after you do the upgrades. Now you also, Werner, you also develop things on your own for Shopware in-house. How do you do testing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was quite the thing where Kiwee came to our rescue, I might say, because we have been developing some software extensions in-house, like the integration with the ERP we are currently using. So basically, sending the orders from Shopware to the ERP to enable the fulfillment process. And this process involved a lot of data conversion from one data format to the other format, and transferring the orders. And this was very testing intensive, creating a new order, seeing if it was transmitted correctly, see where some things go wrong. And we initially had no idea how to write tests for it. And this is where Kiwee and Tomasz came in and provided us good best case scenarios or good example scenarios how to write tests, so that we now can really have unit tests for data conversion and integration tests for this transferring of data from one system to another that now automatically runs in the pipeline, so that we can check at any time if the data conversion is done correctly and if something changed between Shopware versions, for example.
Mm-hmm. And you're just doing unit testing, so testing of the small functions, or are you also doing integration tests and E2E tests? Oh, by the way, Tomasz, same person. I was fooled by that as well, and that's just a naming thing. Okay, just if anyone was confused out there. Okay, so yeah, what are you doing? Unit integration, E2E, everything.
It's kind of layered. Atomic is more into the actual implementation details. So from our side, for the small part we are maintaining, because not to mention the software development team here is normally tied to other projects which are not related to Shopware. But the things we are maintaining are mostly unit tests, because this is all the data conversion that went wrong, and the other areas are more towards Tomasz. So we have some integration tests. We're extending them step by step to get more coverage.
But Tomasz, you are also doing integration tests and E2E testing with Shopware, right?
Yes, and we also applied that for the NFC shop. So basically, we focused first on the very core functionalities to have the end-to-end tested. So on the UI level, to cover the catalog browsing, search, checkout, cart. So this kind of important things to ensure that after each release, the customers will be able to purchase without an error. We do also integration tests, as Werner mentioned, related to the ERP connections, because it all has to work combined with the actual data sources. And the most granular level are unit tests, where we test everything in isolation to find out that it's working.
So you do all of this, and
yes.
Werner, you are also doing all of this, maybe not yourself at Shopware, but in your projects also you're doing all of this. So you two, what would you say? What is the ratio here? Because if I want to start testing, shouldn't I just do this browser automation thing and do end-to-end tests, and everything else is I don't care? Or should I start doing unit tests and then branch out? But where should I start? What do you think? What yeah.
Shall I? So from my perspective, if it depends on the stage of the project. So if starting the new project, I would recommend immediately starting with all kind of tests, because it really benefits in the future when things get more complex and more advanced. But when joining some mature project which doesn't have any tests, I think the best, most beneficial is to start from the end-to-end testing to cover those critical, so-called mission critical functionalities, and then focus on the lower levels, integration tests and unit tests, and obviously all new code to have covered by tests on the fly.
Also, I have another question now, and then by the way, that we are almost at the end. But we planned for half an hour. We will be a little bit longer, but I have two things. The one is you spoke about major projects, so I want to talk about how to construct software so that I can test them easier, that's the software easier. And the second thing is, Werner, I want to hear from you how you think it is actually beneficial from a merchant / developer perspective to do what Kiwee is saying. I mean, not what Kiwee is saying, but to do testing. But Tomasz, maybe we can start with when I already have major software, or something that I built over the time. Maybe it's a mess from a testing perspective because you have to design software a certain way to make it testable. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And what I can here advertise is the TDD, so-called test-driven development, where the practice is to actually start from writing the test before starting writing the code.
But if I already have the code, how do I approach that? Because it's discouraging if I now hear that testing is wonderful and I'm looking over at my code and it's like, wow, no, I can't.
Yeah, so if the code is really messy, that may be hardly testable.
Sorry, from a test's perspective, not generally. It might be very neat code, but it's maybe intertwined so that I cannot isolate specific functionality for a unit test without mocking my database and basically writing an integration test.
Yeah, indeed. So this kind of tests usually require more time because in many cases it requires also code refactoring in order to make it more testable. Because when you don't have enough level of abstraction and use interfaces to be able to isolate, for example, data sources from the business logic, you start using a lot of mocks, and this kind of tests are not very reliable usually, or efficient. And it usually takes a lot of time to write them when you have to write mocks and stubs in very high level.
Complicated, yeah,
it gets complicated. That's why TDD is useful for obviously new code or even refactored code. Because when you start writing from tests, then you have to adjust your code, your business logic, to make those tests working with that code. So then it's faster, and then it's really faster to write new code with this practice.
Absolutely. I would even combine this with something that you said earlier. When you have this heap of code that is not really designed to be tested easily, every time something goes wrong, refactor that part. Or if you can't write at least a test with some mocks. By the way, a mock is if you depend on a database connection in that function, right? You have a function that goes like, okay, connect to the database, fetch me some data, and then if you want to test that, you don't want it to actually access the database, but you want it to get a simulation of a database. This is what you call a mock. The problem is that if you have to mock a lot of things, like you rebuild the application in your test around a function, that becomes really big. But at least start with something like that. If you have areas in your code where bugs occur, or if you can do it, refactor that so that the core functionality. So in this example, you have a function that accesses the database, does something, and returns data or writes data to the database, right? What you could do is you have now two functions, one that connects to the database, calls a function with that data, and writes the returning data to the database. And then you test the logic in the function that receives the data and returns the data. This is stuff that you do in refactoring for unit tests. And I would advise to do that every time you stumble upon a bug if you have a really big code base with a lot of things that you can't test. Was that right?
That's right.
I agree.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, you are yet. Let's be honest. I'm not developing actively anymore, so you are the experts here.
That's right. Yeah,
that's why you're here.
It's with unit tests. It is important to ensure that those tests are very fast and it not depend on any actual data source, because then you're able to run those tests many times during development and validate if the code actually works or doesn't break anything else.
And ideally, you have a lot of unit tests, not so many integration tests, and very few end-to-end tests that really only do the critical paths, because it takes longer and longer. An E2E test takes a lot of time because browser pages need to get load. You click something, blah blah. Unit tests you can run 200 in a second. And in the example, basically you would unit test that extracted functionality, and you would integration test the database function that writes and reads data. And then you would end-to-end test the interface that is using that function for whatever. Werner, you basically get the last word now before we conclude this. If you had someone who is not basically new to testing in general, because we talked a lot about testing in the community and in general, but who's now like, okay, I want to try this, and I didn't get around to it until now. I want to be a good engineer. From a merchant/developer perspective, what would you tell them? Why should they do it? How should they maybe approach it if they do not have a kiwee in their fridge?
Kiwee in their fridge, good example. What should I tell them? Give me a minute to think about it, because I didn't expect that question in that regard. Because now I think that should be a good answer, because we really want to encourage. And
yep, actually, I didn't want to surprise you with that question. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good, all good.
But what I'm aiming at is the thing is, I feel that it's all good and fine what we talked about, and it's all true. But I think it has more merits to hear from you as someone who made that step, right? Also using CI/CD to tell them what were the benefits for you. Because we talked about, yes, it saves you money, it saves you time. But this was from someone who doesn't develop anymore, and from someone who's selling exactly that, teaching people, among other things, how to test. So you are someone who was actually willing to go through the process. Why? What were your benefits? So that's more the question.
So the benefits of introducing testing, and I just try to reflect that, it's basically about giving confidence in your own code, because we are often unsure if we want to push code that's not finished, or if we want to push code that's not as perfect as we might think. We need proof. And unit tests give proof that the thing for the specification you were given are doing it, and you can prove it with this unit test. This is really a big confidence boost and can really foster your skill set on a long run. You can always go back to your tests, execute them, see if you have something you might have missed in your test. You can build on them, can improve them every time, but you get proof, immediate proof that you are doing something good.
So testing not necessarily makes you a better engineer, but it makes you feel like a better engineer.
Imposter syndrome, right? We are all sometimes suffering, no matter how many expertise we have in an area, and a neutral proof may be a way out of it.
That's very nice. So it doesn't even make you feel like a better engineer. It proves that you are a good engineer, because doing tests does not change the code that you write, and doesn't change if you write good or bad code, but it proves that you're writing correct code. Okay, that's nice. Well, then, you two, thank you very much for following my invite and talking to me. I hope the community was enjoying this little video. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.